For most people, buying a $5.7M condo evokes images of champagne toasts and triumphant Instagram posts. For me, it was supposed to mark the end of years of sacrifice, years where I slept in tiny apartments, lived on instant noodles during college, and worked late enough to see cleaning crews more than my own friends. I thought the day I got my keys would feel like finally surfacing for air after a lifetime underwater. It did, until my sister Bianca walked through the front door. The condo sat high above the harbor, its floor-to-ceiling windows pouring warm afternoon sunlight across the marble floors. I had spent weeks preparing for this moment, imagining Bianca smiling with pride, maybe teasing me about finally becoming a big shot. Instead, she took one slow look around, her heels tapping sharply against the polished stone, and her expression soured. "So this is where all your money went," she said, her voice flat. I blinked, unsure how to respond. "Well, yes, I mean, I've been saving for years. I wanted a place that felt like you're better than the rest of us," she snapped. The words hit me harder than I expected. "What? No. Bianca, what are you talking about?" She crossed her arms, scanning the living room with a mixture of envy and accusation. "You buy a place like this, and suddenly you think you're some kind of royalty. Meanwhile, the rest of us are grinding and struggling, and you, what, move into a skyscraper overlooking the water?" I felt my throat tighten. I'm still the same person. I just worked really hard to get here. "Oh, please," she scoffed loudly. "You've always been selfish, but this takes it to a new level." I felt the air leave my chest. "Selfish, Bianca? I invited you here because I wanted to share this with you." She lifted an eyebrow. "Share? You don't share. You hoard, you isolate. You pretend you're some humble little success story, but look at this place. $5.7 million. Who even buys something like this? Unless they're showing off." My heart sank. The joy I had built up for weeks was evaporating, slipping through my fingers like steam. "Bianca, no one gave this to me. You know that. I worked for it. I sacrificed for it. You sacrificed." She laughed sharply. "You didn't sacrifice anything for your family. You left us behind the second you got a promotion. Mom and Dad defended you, but I always knew this day would come, and now here it is. Your big I'm better than everyone moment." Her voice echoed harshly off the high ceilings. I felt myself retreating emotionally, shrinking back from the person who was supposed to celebrate with me. My sister had always been dramatic, but this was different. This felt like resentment bottled up for years finally bursting open. "Bianca," I said quietly, "I wanted you to be proud of me." She gave me a cold smile. "Why? So I could clap for you, so I could stroke your ego while I'm barely scraping by." The bitterness in her tone was more painful than any insult. And when she stormed out, slamming the front door so hard the frame rattled, I stood alone in the silent, echoing condo I had dreamed about for years. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, all I felt was the sting of betrayal and the first crack in our relationship that would change everything. The weeks after Bianca stormed out of my condo felt strangely hollow. Not painful, just empty, like someone had scooped the center out of a familiar routine. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel obligated to tiptoe around her moods or shrink myself to keep the peace. The silence that followed wasn't cold, it was clean. I settled into my new home slowly, almost timidly, as if afraid the walls might still echo with her accusations. Every morning the sun rose across the harbor, staining my bedroom gold. I'd sit with my coffee, taking in the endless water while my mind replayed her words. "You've always been selfish." They stung at first, but over time they dissolved, replaced by the calmer truth that she had spoken from a place of jealousy, not cruelty. Or so I tried to believe. Work became my refuge. My consulting business was growing faster than I anticipated. Companies were calling, asking for help with restructuring, optimization, financial planning. Every email, every contract made me feel steadier, more grounded. I wasn't climbing to escape anything anymore. I was building. Meanwhile, my parents kept asking why Bianca and I weren't speaking. I dodged the question every time. Telling them felt like admitting failure, and I wasn't ready to unravel everything. I said things like, "We're busy," or "We'll talk soon," lies but harmless ones, or so I told myself. Then the whispers started. It began when my cousin casually mentioned that Bianca's company was undergoing major changes. I shrugged it off. Corporate restructuring happened all the time. Still, an uneasy feeling nestled in my stomach. My sister had always been charismatic, but reckless. She relied on charm where she should have relied on effort. A month later, I heard she'd been missing deadlines. Another week passed, and someone told me her manager had been replaced, never a good sign. Soon after, I heard her boyfriend had moved out of their apartment after a series of arguments. My mother tried to hide her worry behind gentle optimism, but even over the phone, I could hear the tremor in her voice. Still, I said nothing. Still, Bianca didn't call. Part of me wondered if she was avoiding me out of pride. Another part feared that she was struggling alone. But every time I reached for my phone, her harsh words flashed in my mind again. "You think you're better than us," and my hand would fall. Then came the message I knew was inevitable. She'd been fired. Not downsized, not reassigned, fired. I heard it through the family grapevine the same way I'd heard everything else. My aunt mentioned it too casually, as if discussing weather. But the weight of the news settled like a stone in my chest. Apparently, Bianca had taken it badly, very badly. She'd yelled at her manager, packed her things angrily, stormed out. Later, she missed 2 rent payments. Her landlord issued a warning notice. She stayed with a friend for a week before the friend needed space. My parents offered for her to move back home, but Bianca refused. She refused everything except her silence toward me. Ironically, even through her downfall, she held on to that distance, as if admitting vulnerability in my direction would be her final humiliation. And yet, I knew it was only a matter of time before that silence broke. I just didn't expect it to break with her calling me. The call came on a quiet Thursday evening, just as I was finishing a late dinner. My phone buzzed across the marble countertop, vibrating insistently like it knew something I didn't. When I glanced over and saw Bianca's name lighting up the screen, I froze mid-step. 6 months of silence. 6 months of unanswered tension, 6 months of living in separate worlds, and suddenly, there she was calling me at 9:47 p.m. For a moment, I debated letting it go to voicemail. I could pretend I didn't see it, pretend I was asleep, pretend nothing had changed. But avoidance never solved anything, and something in my gut told me this call wasn't random. It was inevitable. I exhaled and answered. "Hello, Heyi," Bianca practically shouted, her voice dripping with an exaggerated sweetness that didn't match the hour or our situation. "Oh my God, it's been forever. I've missed you." Her tone was so unnaturally cheerful that I almost laughed. Or cried. I wasn't sure which. "Hi, Bianca," I said carefully. "It has been a while." "Yeah, I've just been so busy, you know. Life stuff, job stuff. Everything's been crazy lately." Her laugh was fake, brittle. "But I was thinking about you today. Thought I'd catch up." "Catch up, right?" I murmured, waiting. There was a pause, not long, but long enough to reveal the truth beneath the sugary facade. "So," she said, dragging out the word awkwardly, "I heard you're expanding your company." There it was. The real reason? Yes. I replied evenly. "I've been taking on new clients. The team is growing." Another pause. A shifting of weight. A shaky inhale. "That's amazing," she said, but her voice cracked. "I'm actually really proud of you." It should have warmed me, but the timing was too sharp. too precise, like a knife slipping between my ribs. "Thank you," I said quietly. "That means a lot. Actually," she continued quickly, "that's kind of why I called." Her voice softened, turned fragile. "I was wondering if maybe you had a job for me, something small, temporary, anything." I closed my eyes. There it was, the ask. She kept talking, words tumbling anxiously. "I know it's awkward, but everything's been a mess. You've probably heard. I lost my job and the economy sucks, and no one's hiring without 10 certifications I don't have. My landlord's being a jerk and I'm behind on bills and just... Look, I'm not looking for a handout. I just need something stable. Family helps family, right?" My chest tightened. Somehow, hearing her say family helps family broke something open inside me. Not anger, but an old, familiar ache. "Bianca," I began softly, "why didn't you call me before?" Silence. She swallowed. "I didn't want you to think I was weak." I waited. "And," she added more quietly, "I didn't want to apologize yet." The honesty surprised me, but so did the subtle shift. She wasn't denying what happened. She wasn't pretending it didn't matter. She was standing at the edge of accountability, trembling. "I'm not asking because you owe me," she continued, her voice cracking. "I'm asking because I'm out of options." Her vulnerability was real, but mixed with expectation, a familiar expectation. The belief that I would swoop in and fix everything simply because we shared blood. And I realized then, this moment wasn't about employment. It was about confronting every unspoken wound between us. I took a deep breath. "Bianca," I said, "we need to talk, honestly, before we talk about jobs." The line went silent, thick and heavy. "Okay," she whispered. "I'm listening." For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence on the line felt alive, full of memories, old grudges, and the unspoken truth that had hovered between us for years. I could hear Bianca breathing, shallow and uneven, like she was bracing for impact. "I want to help you," I began gently, "but I need to be honest about how things felt, how you made me feel." She exhaled shakily. "Okay, you hurt me, Bianca." My voice didn't waver, though my chest tightened. "When I bought the condo, I wasn't trying to brag. I wanted you to be proud, but instead you called me selfish, like everything I worked for was some kind of insult to you." "I know," she whispered. "I was jealous and angry at myself, but it was easier to take it out on you." Her admission landed like a soft weight on my shoulders, heavy but real. "I worked so hard to get here," I continued, "and instead of celebrating with me, you punished me for succeeding. It made me scared to share anything good with you, like you'd twist it into something ugly." She inhaled, then let the breath out in a trembling rush. "I'm sorry, I really am. I shouldn't have said those things." The thing about apologies from Bianca is that I'd heard versions of them before, shallow, convenient, temporary. But this one sounded different. No edge, no excuses, just exhaustion. "Thank you," I said softly. I needed to hear that. Another pause. Then she cleared her throat. "So does that mean—" "No," I said firmly, though not unkindly. "I'm not hiring you." She sucked in a breath, stung. "But why?" "Because mixing business and family would destroy us. You know it, I know it." I softened my tone. "And because you're not in a place emotionally where working for me would be healthy. You don't need a boss who's your sister. You need a clean slate." A long silence followed. But this time, it wasn't defensive, it was contemplative. "I guessed I get that," she murmured. "I'm not abandoning you," I continued. "But I'm going to help you in ways that don't jeopardize either of us." She hesitated. "Like what, for starters?" I offered. "I'll help you rewrite your resume. I'll connect you with recruiters I know. I can coach you through interviews. And if you need a place to stay for a couple weeks, my guest room is open if you respect the boundaries." Her breath hitched. You'd let me stay with you after everything?" "Yes," I said simply. "Because helping you doesn't mean letting myself be used. It means giving you what's actually useful, not what guilt demands." She sniffed, clearly crying now. Bianca never cried where anyone could hear her. I don't deserve that. Maybe not. I said softly, but you need it, and I'm choosing to offer it. That was the sweet revenge. Not punishment, not humiliation, but standing strong without shrinking. Showing her that kindness didn't have to be weakness. That I didn't have to choose between love and self-respect. For once, Bianca didn't argue, didn't lash out, didn't deflect, she just whispered, "Thank you." Later that night, as I stood by the window watching the city lights shimmer across the harbor, I felt something loosen inside me. For years, our relationship had been a storm. Loud, unpredictable, suffocating. But now, for the first time, it felt like the sky was clearing. We weren't healed, not yet, maybe not completely ever, but we were facing the right direction, and sometimes that's the beginning of everything.